it's when you know where you want to go, and that's when you kind of make the decisions that kind of lead you to that goal. But if your head is not clear, you will just you will never get anywhere. But once your head is clear and you realize, that's where I want to go, then you start making decisions that will lead you to that point, I think. And that's what happened.
Hi, and welcome to the There's Another Way podcast with me, Adam Halverson.
And me, Pete Dolby. And you've come to the place where each episode we'll be shining a light on authentic people who have chosen an alternative path to their new normal to find another way.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. We're thrilled to have Peter Bubresko with us. Peter's journey is nothing short of captivating. From his roots in a small Norwegian town to serving in the Navy and then on to adventures in Florida and Cardiff, he's conquered the music industry and now shines as the face of breakfast TV in Norway. Join us as we delve into the ingredients of his success and get a glimpse of a day in the life of a breakfast TV host. We hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. There's Another Way.
All right, well, here we are. We're very excited to be joined this morning by Peter Bubresko, Norway's TV presenter for Good Morning Norway. So, good morning, hvordan har det der, Peter Bubresko?
Veldig bra, takk. Hvordan har dere det?
Ja, bare bra. Beklager, jeg snakker ikke norsk.
No, it's pretty good.
Thank you. So I was we went to Oslo a few years ago, and I thought, right, I need to learn some Norwegian phrases. So I remembered a few, but I genned up on a few. So of course I had to learn. Can you få en øl, takk? Can I have a beer, please? And I thought, well, this one will get me out of trouble. Sorry, I don't speak any Norwegian. And we went to a shop, and this lady came up to me and said, can I help you? And I said, oh, beklager, jeg snakker ikke norsk. And she looked at me like I'd just stepped off another planet. So that's quite useful. But no, great to have you, Peter. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very well. You?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Peter. Good to meet you.
Really good to have you on. So it sounds like you sat in, we were having a chat pre-recording. You're joining us from beautiful Oslo this morning.
Yes, and as I said, before we went on, I'm sorry I had to drag you up that early because obviously Norway is an hour ahead of you. So this is still early for me, but obviously even earlier for you.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure to have you on. And ordinarily, we would be flat out recording Norway's breakfast TV right now, right? Normally, but you've got a break in filming today.
I would, yeah. I was on yesterday, and it's quite I'm sure we're getting back to that, but it's 4 hours live TV every day, so it's quite tough work. But I'll have my days off, so it's okay.
Amazing. Well, 4 hours. I mean, we do the odd 3-hour podcast and we feel exhausted after it. So I imagine presenting to the nation every morning with the camera.
I know. But I mean, I've been doing it for a while. So, in every job you kind of get more and more professional every year, right? So.
Yeah. I'm sure you're the consummate professional, and we're going to dig into that in a little while because I'm very excited to hear what a day in the life of a TV presenter is like. But if we kind of maybe have a little nod back to the past, and obviously just to set the scene, Peter, you and I met many years ago, spending a year in the sun in Florida, which we'll get to shortly. But so what was life growing up for you? Where was home? How was the childhood, and what kind of took you overseas to the States?
Well, I was born in a town called Bærum, which is a suburb to Oslo. It's like 15 minutes away. It's not far. It's kind of connected to Oslo, but still not Oslo. Grew up there. It's kind of beautiful. It's by the water. It's close to everything, close to the city. Safe environment to grow up. Had a pretty decent childhood there. It's kind of known for being kind of the wealthy area of Norway, but unfortunately that didn't include my family, so we were kind of normal. Yeah.
Wow.
What? Sorry.
Yeah. No. Sorry. You go, Peter.
No. So that was school for 13 years, and then I guess it's not like that in the UK, but here it was mandatory to join the military. So I joined the Navy after I finished school, which I
Mhm.
had to, which I kind of enjoyed. Surprisingly enough, actually, I didn't think I would. Um, then I did 1 year at the University of Oslo, social anthropology,
Oh.
and then I thought, oh, I need a break from school actually because I've done this for 14 years now, and then I applied for Disney.
Was that something? So that's really interesting. The military service is a topical thing in the UK at the moment because they're talking about reinstating it. But I guess you learned a lot from that year in the Navy. And if you have to do it, you'd have to get on with it. There's no getting out of it. But you.
No, and I was, it was quite, it was quite good that I had to because, as a still teenager, you kind of, well, at least I was a bit spoiled, couldn't do anything, and the fact that the first thing you do for the first 2 or 3 months is that you share a room with 10 other guys. They're from all over Norway. I've never met anyone outside of my little, area, and then you learn quite quickly that we're different, but we have a lot in common, and we very quickly learn to have fun together. So I learned a lot, and learned how to. I grew up actually during that year, so for me it was perfect, and I had so much fun with the other guys, and and I actually chose to be in the north of Norway, which is a 2 hours flight from Oslo, so it's quite far up. This is a long country, and most people tend not to do that. But I thought, midnight sun, everything
Mm.
included in the North Norwegian experience. I thought, no, I'd never get to experience that in my life, so I just chose that and was happy with it.
Sounds amazing. I've done the north of Finland, and in the summer and the winter, that was a really amazing experience. So I know it's quite different to Norway, but yeah, I can imagine it was very picturesque. And I went to Stavanger. I loved it up there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds like it was a really fulfilling experience. And then you said you applied for Disney. How did that come onto your radar?
Well, actually, both my brother and my sister had worked there before me, so
Oh.
I knew all about the Disney experience. I knew that where to apply, and I also visited my sister. She's 3 years older than me. My brother is 6 years older than me, and when my sister was there in '93, I went over that summer and actually stayed at Vista the Way,
Oh, did
which you
you? A
know all
sneak
about, Pete.
peek.
Yeah, so I'm sure that wasn't allowed at the time, but I was, I was staying with my sister at Mr. Way, and yeah, so I saw firsthand how exciting that year probably was, and um, how much fun it seemed to be. So I just watched my sister firsthand, and I thought, I want to do that. That
Amazing.
seems like a lot of fun. But it wasn't as scary for me because, as I said, my brother done it and my sister done it, and I also visited her during
Yeah.
her year. Mm.
So, because it's quite difficult to get on your radar if you don't know about it. It was advertised at our university. That's how it came onto our radar. But yeah, amazing. And did it live up to expectations when you got out there and spent some time there?
I mean, for me, it was the perfect year because I was kind of fed up with school. As I said, I did the social anthropology, learning about like African cultures and stuff like that. And I thought, oh no, this is not what I'm going to do. What I want to do, it's interesting, but still, I'm just doing something because I have to do something,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing the things I want to do. And I've kind of been a good student all my life, and I thought, oh, I deserve a little bit of fun as well, and then I applied to Disney, and getting the call from America saying you're accepted. It's so exciting when you're like in your early 20s, and I remember it so well going over. It was November 11th. At 11 o'clock, the plane left for New York, and I was joined by three other Norwegian girls. And the journey started there already on the plane, and I was beyond excited, to be honest, because you kind of felt free for the first time. You're away from your parents, and from the get go, it's not like it is today. We didn't have phones or whatever, so when you left, you really, really left,
Yeah.
and you didn't see them again for like a year.
Yeah, I exactly that. You're sitting on that plane at age 20, going out to Florida for you with, and thinking, wow, what am I let myself in for? But
Mm.
unfortunately, I've just heard a lot of the Disney stories. I think I bored you to death with them, but I'm trying
No,
to.
it's fantastic.
It's really difficult to try and convey how impactful it has been for me. Meeting all those amazing people and just having that year in the sun, like you say, that sense of freedom.
Yeah, but also, a little bit like me meeting all the guys from different parts of Norway in the military. It was a kind of the same thing, but even bigger because, upon arrival, you just meet people from, France, from China, from the UK, from America, and because you're in the same situation and you're all a bit lost, the first week, you kind of become best friends with people.
Yeah.
In a minute, and it's fantastic. And for me, I met Ben, who Pete.
Yeah.
We arrived on the same day, became my best friend down there, and it's just amazing. Different country, in America and Florida and Disney World, and it's unbelievable, really,
And just
especially when you're in your early 20s. Yeah.
and just for the people listening, Peter, what were you hoping to achieve from the experience? Sort of, you've touched on what you were kind of hoping for, but what were you hoping sort of as an outcome from it?
Well, just meeting new people was one of the goals, and that didn't take long. You did that immediately, and so many people. I remember I wanted to travel because obviously I knew from my brother and sister, like in the UK, what's your nearest places to go, like Scotland and Ireland and
Yeah.
Wales, and in Norway it's like Sweden and Denmark, which are amazing countries, but quite similar to Norway. But when you're in Florida, you can like travel to, what's the closest countries like Costa Rica, Jamaica, Bahamas, Mexico, exciting places that I've never been. So that was one of the goals as well. And I got to do that. And yeah, and I don't know, I bet, I guess you're a bit naive when, you come over to like big America, in the mid 90s and stuff like that. But you kind of feel like, anything is possible. It's like, um, I don't know. I remember when we flew over New York. I'd never been there before, and I had like the Frank Sinatra song ringing in my head. If I make it here, I can make it. That's kind of the feeling you had, but yeah.
That's a great point. That's how I felt because I'd never been to the States before. And you see, and in the 90s, everyone looked up to America massively. It was in all the movies. It was very glamorous and big. And, just to be there, actually landing in Florida, you think, actually, this is not what it looks like on the TV, but it's still an
No.
incredibly exciting place to be and spend some time. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, back then the world was not as small as it is now because you couldn't connect to the rest of the world like we can now. So that made it more, I don't know, exotic. It made it more exciting, I guess, for some reason. Yeah.
And with growing up in Norway, I mean, obviously we were just talking before we started. I've obviously got some heritage there, but I didn't grow up there. Would you say that it's quite a common theme, sort of being Norwegian, is that you're looking for something bigger, something more exciting? Is that a common thing, or was that particularly you, or do you find a lot of Norwegians think that way?
Yeah, I think they do, or at least they did. I mean, when I mean, Norway is quite a wealthy country, as you know. We have a lot of oil and stuff. But when I was growing up, they had already found oil, but it wasn't. The country wasn't that wealthy at that time. So for us, we felt like the little ones. I mean, we're all back then. We were like maybe 4.5 million people. Norwegian is a language that very few people speak. So for us, America or also the UK was like, wow, because you did bigger and better things. That's what we thought. But yeah, so yeah, obviously, so yeah, I think a lot of Norwegians think like that, and a lot of Norwegians have always. I know they have this American dream and also a really tight connection to the UK.
Yeah, I definitely sense that as well because it seems to me, well, generalizing, that lots of Norwegians learn English very well, and some of them have a very English accent, some of them have more of an American accent. So there's
Mm,
definitely that nod towards the English culture. But I
mm.
think on top of that, we've got lots of Norwegian friends from our time out there. I think I felt a real affinity between the Norwegians and the Brits. I know obviously the Canadians and as well, but I thought there's a real affinity between the two nations. I thought.
Oh, definitely, and that that that's something I became I mean friends with the Norwegians obviously in Florida, but also even more so with the Brits actually. Perhaps through Ben that I arrived with, and
Yeah.
Matt, my roommate, but through them, I got to know you, Pete, and all the other Brits in the pavilion, and what I experienced immediately was we're different, but we are also so similar. And I think the key is maybe humor. I think we kind of share the same humor sometimes,
Yeah.
Norwegians and the Brits. So,
Yeah.
so that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I could do a whole podcast on the Disney experience, Peter, but I guess for the sake of those, then I would probably move on from there. But I guess to sum up your year in Florida, it was as you expected, if not more, probably. I mean, and coming off the back of that, then you were probably thinking, "Wow, what next?" Because I think for me, the hardest thing was coming home after that year. It was so epic. Coming back to a small village in the UK in winter was difficult. But how did you feel coming back, and what were you?
Same thing, it's
Yeah.
really post Disney depression for a couple of months because
Mm.
it was so it was a reality check coming back. It was January. Norway, as you know, is a winter country in the winter, and it's snowy, cold. From the Sunshine State, it was just and all my friends, especially the Brits, you guys were all in the UK, and I was here. We had some reunions with my Norwegian friends and stuff, but we're all shared the same thoughts. We missed it so much. Um, but life goes on, and a lot of people that I work with in the Norway pavilion, they started in working in restaurants and stuff to try to kind of make the experience longer or have the same experience in Norway. That I was never in. I never thought I would do that, and of course, I knew that I had to go to university because unlike you guys in the UK, because I think you all had gone to university because you start really early. It's not that common to start straight after school here in Norway. As I said, some of us go to the military, and stuff like that. So I hadn't gone to university, and so I knew that was the next step for me. And I always thought I would be studying in America, but because I'd just come back from the US and met so many lovely Brits, I thought, hey, maybe the UK is a good place for me to study. And I did some research. Knew I wanted to become a journalist, and I heard that Cardiff, the University of Cardiff, had a good course for journalism, applied there and got in. So just a couple of months after I arrived, I went on another exciting journey, I would say. Not as much sunshine as I was used to, but still went to Cardiff.
So, how did you? So you said you knew you wanted to do journalism, and did you study social anthropology at university, and obviously had your year in Florida. At what point did you realize that journalism was where you wanted to head to?
Because I knew by talking to some people I know that it can be quite an exciting profession. Um, Depends what you do and stuff, of course. But if you're lucky, if you're good, it can actually give you fantastic experiences in life. Plus, I always knew that I was quite curious, which is a good thing to have when you're a journalist. So for me, it was kind of the natural choice, but still, I was in my mid 20s. What do you know, really? But
Yeah.
you got to start somewhere, and I felt lucky because once again, I was embarking on this new international adventure. So I was, excited.
Brilliant. And was Cardiff? How was Cardiff? I mean, I've been there a few times, but it sounds like a fun place to go study for 3 years, especially if you've got an affinity with the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember going over, and I went over quite late. It was my plane landed in London quite late. It was dark. I had to catch the bus to Cardiff. Never been there before. It was raining non-stop. Didn't know where I was going.
Standard.
Yeah. And I arrived at the dorm, and I was like, "What the fuck? This is not what I imagined at all." And I felt quite miserable actually that first night. I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I never should have went here. Sorry, but this does not look good." But then you wake up, and it didn't rain anymore, and someone knocks on my door, and it's actually a Norwegian girl that I knew from school, and she
Okay.
was staying at the same dorm, and I was like, "Oh, hey, are you here?" I didn't know, so that was quite cool, and so that kind of saved me. Yeah.
And you touched on your mum there, Peter. Was sort of growing up, obviously you moved into journalism. Did they have any sort of expectation about what they wanted you to do? Was there any direction that they were sort of had hopes for, or were they pretty open-minded?
I would say they were very open-minded, actually. I mean, I think if my mom were to decide, I would have become a singer. Because when I was I was about 15 to 21, I did actually opera,
Oh
which
wow.
nobody knew. Yeah, I know, but
Forgot
nobody
about
knew
that.
about that. That was my kind of thing, which was not the coolest thing to do, but I enjoyed it. So I did it, but I didn't actually tell many people that I did it. And so I think if my mom could decide, she would have wanted me to kind of continue that. But yeah, no, they didn't. I mean, obviously they had the hopes for me, but they didn't pressure me to do that or something else. So yeah, they were fantastic in that way. I think, yeah, because I feel sorry for kids who have great expectations on their shoulders, because if their parents want them to become whatever, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, and that's not your thing, you really shouldn't do it. So it's your
It's
life. So I'm glad that no one pushed me to do anything, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a common theme that we come across all the time when we're chatting to people on these recordings. Yeah, people go so far down the road and they get into, I don't know, 40s and think, you know what, this is not for me. This is a
No.
regret. I need to do something different. I just
Mm.
had one thought actually when you were talking about your Cardiff experience. Did you go to the Millennium Stadium once with Nick Wright to watch a game of football?
No, but I did go to the Millennium Stadium many times to watch the football. I think the Rugby World Cup was there when I was there. Um, and I think they were building a new Wembley when I was in Cardiff. So
That's
many
right.
of the international games and the playoffs and stuff like that were at the Millennium Stadium, which I think it's not called anymore. Is that right?
Oh,
Uh,
I can't remember what it's called now.
yeah, no, he's only
Yeah,
called that anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's got a new name. But actually, because I worked at the Millennium Stadium for a bit, which was not the best work I've had, but made some money. And I was
Character building.
placing commercial stickers on every seat in the stadium, and I think
What?
it's 72,000 seats. And when the playoffs, when the games were over, I had to take them off again.
You're joking. How many people do
No,
that?
I know it's a horrible job, but you're a poor student, you do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
character building. The reason I was asking that question, Peter, Nicole and I went to university with a lovely lady from Sweden called
yeah,
Anna, and she had well, has a Norwegian husband, and we were sat at uni one day. She said, "Oh, we've been to Wales, we've been to Cardiff to watch this game." She's showing us the photos of they'd been to some event at the Millennium Stadium, and I'm
yeah.
pretty sure on the row behind them and it might have been you. It was definitely Nick Wright and a couple of other people. I could not believe they didn't know each other, but they were showing the photos from their experience.
Oh,
And there they were in the background, and I can't remember whether you were there or not. It's a very faint memory, but yeah, what are the chances of that?
yeah, maybe I was actually. I don't know. I would definitely remember going to the playoff finals, I guess you call it that, and yeah, maybe Nick Wright did come down. He was there a couple of times, so
Yeah.
yeah, could have been. Yeah,
I don't remember seeing
yeah.
the stickers though, but
Nah.
No, I do, and I do have a good memory of the Millennium Stadium. I saw the last game that one of the last games anyway that Richie McCaw and Dan Carter played in the World Cup. It was like New Zealand against Peru or something.
Wow.
So obviously it was like 112-0. But yeah, great stadium, and then good night out in Cardiff actually.
Oh, absolutely. And Cardiff, I mean, the city was developing so much when I was there. I think, like on the radio, the slogan was always Cardiff, the fastest growing city in Europe or something. And it really was. And I think it's changed so much. I have not been back since I left in 2001, but we're constantly talking about it. Like we have to have a reunion in Cardiff. So hopefully soon. But yeah, so I guess the city has changed so much. But I had a good time there. I mean, the weather, I don't know. It was raining so much, and I guess it rains more in Cardiff and Wales than it does in like London. And so that was like a downside.
It rains a fair bit here.
And it felt, because it doesn't rain as much here in Norway, at least not in Oslo. And you always felt like you had this dark cloud hanging over you, and that was the downside of it. But uni life, as you know, obviously is fun, and it doesn't depend on the weather. So
brilliant. So Cardiff is done. You graduated. What was next on your wish list of career?
Well, at that time, because I was so eager to go abroad, before I went to Disney, and I was still eager to go abroad. That's why I went to Cardiff. But after 3 years in Cardiff, I was actually looking forward to go back and continue life in Norway. And even though I'd always lived close to Oslo, I've never actually lived in Oslo. So I was kind of excited to do that, and I was ready to go back. And I kind of, I've been 4 years abroad, and I was like, that's enough for now. And so I went back to Oslo. Moved into my brother's apartment in the city center, and a Norwegian girl that graduated from Cardiff the year before me, she had become the secretary of this big CEO of this big Norwegian production company. And she, while I was still in Cardiff, said, you should come work for this company and I can get you a job. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I didn't have to work really hard to get, a foot in. So I actually started working in television almost like the same week I arrived back from Cardiff. And my first show that I worked on was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that I know was big in the UK as well. And at that time in 2001, that was like one of the biggest shows on TV here in Norway. So, that was a good start.
That must have been really exciting. So the fact that you chose Cardiff, you met someone that you knew there, and then just through that connection, you managed to quite quickly, moving back to Oslo, get a foot in the door in the TV world. That's
yeah, and I was quite lucky actually, because I was a bit worried while I was in Cardiff, because I knew some people studying here in Oslo or other places in Norway, and obviously being in the country you get more connections. I didn't have any, because I'd been away for 4 years. So yeah, that was quite lucky. And all you need sometimes, is that one foot in the door, and then it's up to you. And normally, you should be brave and go and knock on doors and really sell yourself. And but I didn't have to do that, which was quite easy, I guess. But sometimes life is like that.
Yeah, and how was that experience? Was it intimidating going into that arena when you weren't used to it, or did you feel right at home straight away?
I felt straight at home right away. I had there's one of the Brits that I know that you also know, Pete, a guy called Russ. He has a brother, called Shed, and me and Shed were quite close in Cardiff.
Okay.
Out of all the Brits I knew from Disney, because Russ didn't actually work in Disney that year with me, but for some reason Shed was my closest British friend while I was in Cardiff, and I saw Shed all the time actually, and he was working in television, and he was working for the Big Breakfast.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
on Channel 4. So he was quite cool, he was, a very creative guy and quite a lot of fun. And he came over to Cardiff without Russ or without Nick or Ben or the other guys I knew. He came on his own and he got to know me and my roommates. And we hung out quite a lot, and we went to visit him in London. And sometimes me and my roommates, sometimes me alone. And he took me to the big breakfast show. So I was, I was there in the background watching how it was all being done. He introduced me to Denise Van Outen and Johnny Vaughan and all that stuff. So, I was quite, TV, that's pretty cool. And because of Shed, he already introduced me to a little bit of that world. So I kind of knew what to expect when I came back to Norway and was lucky enough to get my first job.
Well, that's amazing insight, because the Big Breakfast was kind of an iconic show over here for being quite different in terms of, I guess, I'm not up to speed with all the TV terms, but it was quite a different format to the general TV programs at that time. It was wasn't it, quite progressive and modern.
Definitely.
So that must have been a great experience. So at that point, when you moved into the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, did you know at that point which job or which role you wanted within? Did you want to be the TV presenter then, or did you think maybe more behind the scenes, or what were you thinking at that stage?
Oh, definitely behind the scenes, and I worked behind the scenes for many years. And I actually, the more public role wasn't really something I was working towards at all. I can get back to that, but it was a bit, it just happened in a way. I'll tell about that a little bit later. But your first job, you're still like in your 20s. It's not like, I don't know. I've never been like had this sharp elbows. I'm not this sharp elbows kind of guy. So, I just tried to do a good job, and I don't know and I was happy with that. And I worked behind the scenes for 2 years before I moved on again. And then I moved on into the music industry. That was my next step, because one of the jobs I had in TV, or the last job I had for that production company before I left, was this big award show. And this British group, Sugar Babes, they were booked to perform 2 songs at that award shows, but for some reason they just didn't show up at Heathrow that morning, so they actually never came to Oslo. And I guess they were hungover or whatever, but they never came. And and then we had a big problem, because they were supposed to perform 2 songs, so we had we had to fill like 10 minutes, and the award show was the same night. And I was dealing with the record company during the day. What do we do? What can you give us? Blah, 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 blah. And then the week after, I guess they were impressed by the way I handled it, because next week I got a job offer from Universal Music, which is, the biggest record company in the world. And I thought, ooh, that's exciting. Still young, music. I was really into music, and I thought, that could be a good experience for a bit. So I started working there, thinking it would be a year, but it ended up being 4 years.
Oh wow! How was that?
It was cool. I was head of promotion for the Norway department of Universal Music. Had a lot to do with international artists. Obviously very exciting for me. With famous people. Got to meet so many people during those 4 years. Got to travel a bit. It was beyond exciting. Met everyone from like Rihanna to Elton John to Kanye West. I played pool with Amy Winehouse. Had dinner with Lionel Richie, stuff like that. It was amazing. And I couldn't believe it. But then after 4 years, I realized, it's not that exciting anymore. Celebrities, just normal people. They don't really care about if it's you or someone else. They do this, in every country they go to. Some of them difficult, got fed up with dealing with, difficult managers, sometimes difficult artists, stuff like that. And and then I just decided, this wasn't really what I was supposed to do. I had a journalism degree. I had just worked like in in TV for 2 years. I kind of wanted to do that again. So, and then my best workmate told me one day that he had found another job, and we had been talking endlessly about, oh, we need to do something else. And I just panicked that day, and I was like, what? And I just got up, went straight into my boss's office, and I said, I quit. And then I didn't have anything else to do, didn't know what I was supposed to do, but I thought, what the worst thing that could happen. And yeah, so that was my 4 years in Universal Music in the record industry.
Who you said you kind of brushed shoulders with some of the big stars of the time. Who was the highlight? Who was the person that really kind of resonated and you thought, you know what, they really.
Well, I have some good stories. I remember being chased by Elton John, which was quite fun.
Right.
And because he was playing like different concerts all around Norway. And when he came to Oslo, we were supposed to meet up with him backstage because we'd been to so many concerts. And his manager was like, yeah, Elton John. It was me and two of my bosses. And we were like standing backstage outside his wardrobe, just waiting for him. And then the manager, he would be 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, we hear a room just, the sound of it being trashed and glass breaking and someone screaming. And we're like, what is going on? And then his manager comes out of the room and he's like, oh, sorry, guys, you need to go now. And we were like, what's going on? And then we started to walk slowly towards the entrance. And then I was the last one, turned around, and I saw Elton John coming out of his wardrobe, kind of running after us. And I remember saying to my boss, oh my God, run, Elton is coming. And we ran up the stairs. And then the show started like half an hour later, and he was doing a brilliant job. And we were like, what happened? And then his manager told us, I guess you want to know what happened? And he said, yeah. And we said, yeah. And he said, well, that's what he said. I don't know if that was the truth, but he said he got a phone call from Bob Geldof. And this was right before Live 8, I think it was called. It was like a big charity, a little bit like Live 8, but I think it was called Live 8. And it was just before that. And I think Bob Geldof or something was saying to him that he wasn't allowed to perform the songs he wanted to, or the number of songs he wanted to. And he was just pissed off because of that. That's what we were told. But he said, you're lucky. He hadn't had this big of a tantrum for years. So that's, you should consider yourself lucky.
Amazing. Elton John in a rage coming out. It must have been quite an interesting sight.
Absolutely. And then obviously Amy Winehouse, because she's not alive anymore. But she came over to Oslo, and I was organizing this because it was right before the Back to Black album was released. So
which blew up massively, didn't it? That album, yeah.
Yes, but it was before release, so it hadn't like exploded yet. But obviously everybody understood how talented she was, and people loved the first album. And then she was about to release the song Rehab, I think, and we got her over to Norway. We arranged this, kind of a concert where we just invited people. And she came over, I think, for like 3 or 4 days. And she was, great. I really, really liked her, but I could see already back then that she was a troubled girl. And I remember her asking me if I could get her some drugs, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And but she was still kind of functioning, she wasn't that messed up as she became later on. And she was so sweet and so lovely and so nice. And as I said, we played pool together, which is a fantastic memory for me now. And so that was the Amy Winehouse experience. And obviously, as I said, because she tragically lost her life, experiences like that, kind of stick with you.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, she was a real talent. Nicole and I actually saw her after the Frank album, before Back to Black, and we saw her at a small, intimate gig with about 400 people. And yeah, I mean,
Mm,
she was incredible. But then that Back
yeah,
to Black album just blew up, didn't it? Yeah. So you left
yeah,
the music industry behind, and some of the tantrums and diva tantrums then, and then
yeah.
so you had nothing to do at this stage, or you didn't know where you were going to turn next.
No, didn't know at all. But I thought, as I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? Living in Norway feels always quite safe. They can't take care of you even though you fuck up. And so I thought, I'm still young, I'll probably be able to do something. But it's scary. It's scary. I probably wouldn't dare or be able to do that now today. But back then, it felt like something which I could do. And but obviously, I was a bit worried, and I did, then you try to talk to the connections that you already have. So that's what I did. And I managed to get on this show, worked on that show for a little bit, um, uh, didn't know. And then I applied for this job at what can I call it? The Norwegian equivalent of the BBC. Yeah.
Hmm.
And applied for a job there, not as a journalist, but just working behind the scenes at the NRK, which it's called. And I got the job actually, but decided to say no because I thought, oh, what? No, but that's kind of the same things I did at Universal that I'm supposed to do there now. But it was a steady job, and people wouldn't say no to the BBC. But I kind of did because I thought, no, I was supposed to work as a journalist, and if I say yes to this job, I would just continue doing the same work as I have been doing at Universal. And then I declined it, still not knowing what I was supposed to do in life, and not having like a steady income. So I feel kind of brave for doing that. As I said, I would probably not do it today, but I did it back then, and I'm glad I did because that put me on the path to where I am today.
And before we get into that, would you say sort of you were kind of running on gut feel, or were there influences that were influencing these decisions you were making?
Well, I had some friends, I would say, that were quite wiser than me, who were tougher than me, and who's told me, "Don't do it, don't do it." It's not a bad job, but if it's not what you want to do, just don't do it because um, it's when you know where you want to go, and that's when you kind of make the decisions that kind of lead you to that goal. But if your head is not clear, you would just you will never get anywhere. But once your head is clear and you realize, that's where I want to go, then you start making decisions that will lead you to that point, I think. And that's what happened.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that's a great answer and great insight. And I was just thinking actually when you said when I think it was the Sugar Babes you said didn't turn up,
Mm.
there was obviously something in you that kicked into gear that someone noticed. And obviously I know I'm sort of going back in our story a little bit here, but there was obviously something in you that was like, okay, I've got to take ownership of this. I've got to take control of it. That then led you getting into that obviously that head of promotion for that other job. So there's obviously sort of something in you or something in your head that kind of gives you a little bit of direction or a little bit of I don't know, let's say passion in what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people maybe sense that, and I think I'm quite easy to work with. Has always been my thing. I consider myself not being a very difficult person at all, which I think people like. And I always, like most people, I guess, I want to do the best I can, and I take great pride in doing a great job, whatever I do, I suppose. Yeah.
I do think there's two really big lessons there because I think there's two pieces of advice I think that I would give to a lot of people, which you've just said is like two advices in a career. Don't be a dick and show up. And actually, it's amazing how far that can get you. Just basics. People have so much insecurity, imposter syndrome, but actually, if you're just a decent guy and you treat everybody well, and you're a good testament to this, you can get pretty far.
Yeah. And not being a dick is a good advice, because I can tell you the people you meet on your way up is the same people you meet on your way down.
Yeah.
So be nice. That's a good advice.
But and that takes me back to the restaurant days and learning so much from working in those environments, because I remember you used to get the managers that used to come in and they'd want to sit on their own tables at lunchtime and they thought they were very important. And you get the people. The restaurant needs a lot of different roles to function properly, be it pot wash, be it bussing, be it serving, be it whatever it is. Everyone plays a part in the functioning of a restaurant. And I guess you can apply that to different businesses. You can't have a business without the cleaner. You can't have a business. Everyone plays an important part, just because it's maybe not so glamorous. I think that's a really good message.
Absolutely. And for me personally, because I've worked behind the scenes, I'm working now in front of camera. That gives me also the experience to kind of respect every job in a better way, I guess, because I've been there myself and I know what they do or what they provide in order for me to do my job and etc.
Yeah, it's a really good message. Yeah. And so then you said that then that last step then took you to where you are today. So working on Good Morning Norway, right? Which is,
yeah.
I
Well,
guess,
that wasn't the first thing I did, actually, because and again, sheer luck, I guess, because I was working on this show about in one production company, and then I met this girl that I worked with a little bit years before, and she was like, "Oh, I'm starting this new show for TV2, which is our ITV, I guess, yeah. And do you want to be a part of it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, that sounds fun." So, and then I started at TV2, which is like a big network in Norway, and this was like a kids show, I guess, and the girl and I, we were building this show together, and it got on air. It did quite well. We had two hosts that didn't really work out, and then one of the bosses at the company said, I don't want this anymore. I want a kind of a big brother, little sister kind of feel in the show, and I want you to do it. Told me, and I was like, oh. And that's how I actually got into presenting. And I was like, okay. And then we had like an audition, and we found this girl called Katharina, who's now one of my best friends, and she's had an amazing career in broadcasting, and we started presenting the show, and yeah. So that was like my first gig, and it was a great experience. It was a live show as well. But it was a kid show. But that's a great way to start, because it's just all fun and games. No one takes it that seriously and stuff. So it's a great way to start. So that's where it started. But it went really well. It got nominated for what's your TV awards? A Norwegian TV award.
The BAFTAs or something.
Yeah, something like that. So we didn't win though, but at least we got nominated. And through that gig, we did different stuff. Me and Katharina, we did like the Extra Factor. We had like an X Factor show on the back of the X Factor show. Did different stuff together. So all of a sudden, I was a presenter, and I was and really it was just like because someone asked me to do it. And then after 2 years, they canceled that show because they were doing something else. And then once again, I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I went.
Sorry to interrupt, but so what was your kind of profile at this point? Did you sort of become, where were you in terms of notoriety, let's say, in Norway? Not that I'm sure you were doing it for that reason, but were you sort of somewhat in the public eye at this point?
Yeah, but not so much. I mean, mostly for like younger kids, I guess, which is fun enough, but not so much because, it wasn't like a prime time TV kind of slot or anything. But among the younger audience, we were quite well known, I guess, which was also a strange feeling. But no, did not do it because of that, and one never should. And that's if someone else wants to work like in TV or whatever. If you're doing it to become a celebrity, that's the wrong reason, because that will never last, and that's not something you should aspire to, I guess.
Absolutely. But I guess at this point as well, I mean, I think, for a lot of people listening, they'd be like, can you imagine being in that position? Obviously, you're very used to it now, but at the time, were you thinking, wow, like, look where I am? Did you have to sort of pinch yourself, or was it just sort of part of the journey?
I pinched myself a little bit but I have been pinching myself for a lot of years, if I'm being totally honest. I consider myself lucky in many ways, and I tend to focus on the positive sides. Obviously, I had a lot of shit happening in my life as well. I mean, my mom died of cancer and all stuff like that. But
sorry to hear that.
but I tend to like try to focus on the stuff that happened in my life that makes me feel kind of lucky. And I know, I mean, it's not all luck, obviously. It's sometimes hard work, and it's dedication, and it's everything. But I feel lucky, and that's a great feeling to have. I felt lucky when I got into Disney. I felt lucky when I was lucky enough to get a job straight out of university, and also the Universal music experiences. And also this, I felt really lucky. So I did have to pinch myself a little bit, because I was like, how the hell did I end up here? Now, on live TV and, national TV, it's quite, quite amazing.
Absolutely. And just before we go into that sort of next phase is, would you say that there are qualities that you have, or there are reasons why you've sort of navigated this path? Because what you have done, I think a lot of people would think, wow, I fancy a bit of that. But obviously what people don't connect is the hard work, or whatever those kind of ingredients might be to get you there. So is there anything you could sort of say to anybody listening, that you may have as sort of inherent qualities that's sort of helped you on this path?
Well, work hard. That's the best advice, I think. Work hard, do your job, be ambitious, but do your job and be nice, because now it kind of sounds like I've stumbled onto everything. Of course I haven't. I worked hard, and that's when people notice good work, I guess, and I guess that's what happened to me. Yeah.
And then just going back to when you were working behind the scenes of that children's TV show, and the whoever it was spotted something in you that they wanted you to be front of camera. That's quite an interesting. They must have noticed something. I thought, well, let's give Peter a try in front of camera.
Yeah, I guess they did, and it worked really well. But as I said, after 2 years, I was onto something else once again. So you that can happen again. I mean, it's not like you should take things for granted. You still have to work hard every day. Don't get spoiled. Never get spoiled, and keep on, working. And that's that's what I've been doing all these years, and I kind of wake up every day, and it's a new day. It feels like I'm never better than what I do today. I can't rely on what I did like 6 months ago or like 3 years ago. I have to it has to be fresh, and I have to be top of my game like every day. That's how I think when I wake up.
That's a great message. Don't be complacent, and need to keep it fresh, keep working hard.
Well, I think so many people in your Universal job would have not probably just handed their notice in. After 4 years, I think a lot of people would have thought, hold on, I'm in a unique position here. I get to meet these people. But then to sort of have that feeling that isn't right, and then to completely almost go back to your original goal, again, I think that shows that, I guess, you're thinking along the way, and you're being intentional about the decisions you're making.
And if it's conscious enough, I don't know, but it's a little bit, probably. but you know, follow your gut feeling and your heart, I guess. It's always also good advice, because that's what I did. And I think I just got clarity, and that led me to what I envisioned doing years earlier, I guess.
Mm. So now in the present day, you are a TV presenter, host for Good Morning Norway, which for our...
Yeah, but I had to work a little bit to get that gig, actually,
Okay.
because I was after that kids TV thing, that ended, and I actually went into directing TV shows instead. So I spent 2 years directing TV shows, and then there's Good Morning Norway is this iconic show in Norway. It's always been on. It's the most popular morning show in Norway, and it's iconic. Everybody knows about it, and most people love it. And I heard through some colleagues of mine that they're thinking about replacing two of the guys, because there are four people presenting it like every other week. And I was like, that would be great. And I really want to do that. And I did call the woman in charge of that show and presented myself. I don't think she kind of knew who I was. So I could kind of hear her rolling her eyes while we were talking. And she was like, yeah. So many people have called, hundreds and hundreds, so don't get your hopes up and stuff. And then I thought, because I'd been kind of lucky before, but this time I thought, okay, now I really have to work for it. And I thought, okay, what I do? So I talked to the connection I had, talked to the people that I knew someone within that show, and asked if they could get me an audition. And luckily, they liked me, so they kind of talked positively about me. And I was kind of on her, and I talked to her again, and she was like, and finally she was like, okay, you can come for an audition. And then I knew that that's all I needed, because in my mind, I thought, yes, I have an audition and I'm going to win that audition, because I'm going to be the best at that audition. And went in, and well, I guess I was, because I got it.
Absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic.
How long ago was that, Peter?
Well, that's a long time ago now, because this was in 2012.
Right.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a long time. And
Yeah.
you said you had a stint directing shows for 2 years. Did you enjoy that part of it as well? And I guess it's again another skill set you've accumulated along the way. But did you at that point did you think, well, I need to get back in front of the camera again, or was it just a natural progression?
Well, being in front of the camera obviously is seen as a lot of fun. It is. So I was. It wasn't like I was desperately trying to get in front of the camera again. When the opportunity kind of came, I jumped to it and tried actually to get it, which I did. But directing, I didn't enjoy that so much. But I'm glad I did, because that's hard work as well, and you're in responsible for so many people on set and stuff like that. So I'm glad I did it, but I'm also glad that I got the gig at Good Morning Norway, because that led me to become a journalist. Since then, I've been employed by the news department at TV2. I'm occasionally also anchoring the news.
Right.
So today I'm more like I when I did the kids show and stuff, it was more entertainment. Now it's more news, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And how was that first Good Morning Norway show recording, the live? You must have been some nerves.
I didn't sleep 1 minute that night before the first show, because my co-hosts were kind of also very famous, iconic. Been there for many years. Some of them have left since then, but yeah, I was so nervous. And back then it was like a 3-hour live show, and 3 hours is a long time. You gotta watch what you say. People are watching, and if you slip up, they will, talk about it, and Yes, I was so nervous, but I was also so prepared. So it went really well, and got great feedback after that first show. So my confidence grew, I guess, and been doing it ever since, along with other shows as well. I've been doing other stuff as well, but
And how did you prepare?
I just kind of like I did in school back in the day, I guess. I just came so prepared that I, and that's what I do these days as well. I'm always so prepared that I don't have to prepare on the actual day we're recording, if you know what I mean. So when I show up at the studio, I feel so relaxed because I know what I'm doing. I know who I'm talking with about, and I'm always really well prepared, and that makes me kind of relaxed.
I think that's sorry.
Day we shoot, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great point, because especially with a job that you do on the surface, that a lot of people, let's face it, would really, really want to have. But what I think what people don't connect with is what goes into it. You see someone, on TV for these relatively short period of times, although, like you said, 3 hours must feel like an eternity. But I think there's a big disconnect these days with really understanding actually what goes into the preparation, what goes into, and how people actually get themselves into these situations. And Pete and I obviously listen to a lot of other content. I'm really big into a guy called Alex Hormozy at the moment, and he actually did a podcast exactly on this point, which is just, preparation is everything. I think it's a really important message, and I think for me, it's really interesting to hear from your perspective, which is that, preparation kind of beats nerves. It is the secret behind, getting the outcomes that you want.
Absolutely. And for me, part of my job is obviously interviewing people, and you never know what the people might tell you, what their answers will be. And sometimes their answers are short, sometimes it's long, sometimes they go off topic. But if you're prepared, nothing stresses you. Rarely something stresses me at all. And I interview, the Norwegian Prime Minister. It's a very varied show. I interview the Norwegian Prime Minister, but then you can interview like a famous actress or a singer or whatever, and then normal people with the story comes on. So it's so different every day, but I never feel stressed because obviously I'm a lot more professional now than I was in 2012. But it's all about preparation because it makes you, I don't know, feel so calm inside, and you're prepared for anything. And it doesn't really matter what they do because you prepare for it. And it's a great, great feeling.
Yeah. So that preparation, Peter. What's a typical day for you when you're presenting? The preparation goes in the day before and the morning of. I guess you have to rise early. What's a typical day on your show?
Well, the typical day is I get up at 4:45, and I head down to the studio at I'm there 5:15. It goes really quickly in the morning. I shower and out. And then we have this meeting at the studio with the producer and talk about the show, this and that. And then we go into makeup, which is a part of the job as well. And then the show starts at 7, and then 4 hours later, we're done for the day. And then we have another meeting to prepare for. We talk about, the segments we had today. We talk about the show that just been on air, and then we talk about the next day because there's another show the next day. And then I go home and I actually work from home, and I sit in my house and I prepare for the next day, which is I write scripts, I do this. It's so much, and then I try to work as much as I can after the show during the day before I pick up the kids from school, and then I go to bed at 9 o'clock, pretty early, which is too early sometimes, obviously. I go to bed sometimes before my kids, which is a strange feeling. And then I get up again at 4:45, and I do the same thing, obviously with other guests and other topics. And and then I have days off, luckily, where I can do other stuff, because I couldn't have done this every single day, because that would be too hard, and I wouldn't have a life at all. But the days I'm on air, I feel like the whole day is about preparing for that show the next day. Yeah.
And do you feel like to do this job, you've had to? Does it feel like you're making sacrifices, or even though you started back in 2012, do you still feel grateful for it, or do you feel that you're kind of heavy structure and do you feel like it's a sacrifice? I mean, again, a lot of people thinking, 9 o'clock every night, or not every night, but most nights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have weeks off. No, I feel quite lucky actually, because I have a good gig. I have a lot of time off. I have a really long summer holiday when no one bothers me for anything, and I still feel after all these years lucky to be able to do what I do. I mean, the media industry is changing so much, and there are actually not that many talk shows left, and I'm still running one of them, which is quite cool, and I feel also like blessed and lucky, because it's a show that people really care about, and we noticed that especially during the pandemic, when a lot of people were home, so a lot more people started watching us. And I see that whenever if I go on holiday or whatever, I see that for a lot of people, we're like their friends, which is a weird feeling to have, but it's kind of nice as well. And, I get stopped so many times by people who tell me like, thank you for being there in the morning while I was, sick with cancer, or was stopped the other day in the street by this Brazilian guy who said, I watched you every morning, and that's how I learned Norwegian, and stuff like that. So it's really rewarding as well, to get like feedback like that.
Wow.
So I still like feel lucky, and like I was in Stockholm just last week to I wanted to see the Eras tour by Taylor Swift, and to see what the fuss was all about, and I learned quickly that giving each other friendship bracelets is a big thing. And obviously, because it was in Stockholm, there's a lot of Norwegians there, so I ended up, with my arm full of, friendship bracelets from the audience, because they recognized me from TV. So stuff like that is, it's just cool, and rewarding, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing. It must be great to get that feedback, because you present it to camera, but then afterwards you get people coming up to you saying how impactful it was. That must be nice feedback. So
yeah. And not all the time, because like Oslo, you've been here. It's not like London. It's the biggest obviously city we have, and it's the capital. But it's not. I mean, it's seeing someone on TV or seeing a singer or an actor on the street here is not that rare, if you know what I mean. So it's not like it's not like London or one of the big cities where they struggle with press, or they struggle with fans. It's nothing like that.
Yeah. And since you started presenting in 2012, have there been any other changes where new presenters have come in and you've had to mentor them or look after them, or can I give them advice and guidance when they've come in, or were you the last change?
No, there have been some changes, many times actually. The girl or the woman I'm co-hosting with, she's kind of the biggest legend of them all. She's been there for 20 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's so yeah. So we have a good working relationship, but just like yesterday, actually, after the show, because I was presenting yesterday, then this guy, he's a sports presenter, but we kind of need, like occasionally, if I can't be there, or if I'm doing something else, we need people to take over, maybe for a week or something, and we need some new people to do that. So he was auditioning, and he's kind of a well-known person actually. But he's younger than me, and he was auditioning yesterday, and I, tried to give him good advice. I cheer them on, and wish them the best, because that's what I wanted when I started. So I try to give the same thing back to the people after me.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really cool. Like you say, that whole notion of being nice to people on the way up, and helping people
Yeah.
get to there. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're in a role that you really enjoy. You're really fulfilled. You've been doing it a while. You're into your groove. Have you any thoughts on what's next? What does the future hold for you, Peter?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm actually thinking a lot about that at the moment because, some of my old colleagues, they have moved on and doing other stuff. Some of them happy with it, some of them not so happy with it because working in television is a lot of fun.
Mm.
So topping that is difficult, I guess. But obviously, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be presenting this show the rest of my working career. I know that. I'm not going to be like 70 years old still doing this. So, I'm starting to think about what I want to do next. But it's difficult because I'm happy where I am. I enjoy the work. It's fulfilling for me, and it's a lot of fun. So thinking, oh, you should quit and do something else, I can't really get my head around it. And it was the same thing when I worked for Universal Music. I wasn't really happy in the job for a while, but still, I found it so difficult to think about something else than the actual job I was doing because that's where I was at the time, and I feel the same way now. What I'm going to do afterwards. I don't know. I guess moving more into news. I'm in the news department. I'm anchoring, as I said, the news occasionally. More of that maybe, or then it's a part of me thinking, I've been doing this for, over 20 years now, soon 25 years. It would be interesting to kind of go into another field to
Mm.
see if it's something that could be rewarding and fun, which I'm sure it is.
And that at the moment you're not sure where that would lead you. Or
No,
no, no.
no. And I guess if I was fired tomorrow or if the show was canceled tomorrow, that would help me a lot, obviously, because
Mm.
then that would be the kick that I needed to kind of, okay, then I need to actually work on it. But still, it's quite comfortable in that position that I am, and then it's difficult to get really ambitious about other things again, I guess.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like you need to. It sounds like you're very happy with what you're doing anyway, and it's a fulfilling job
Yes,
for you. So,
yeah. So far it's good, but
yeah.
it's not forever. So
Mm.
eventually I have to do something else, and I will do something else. So the thing that the whole process has started, I think that's a good thing, really. Yeah.
Mm. Wonderful. Well, yeah, I think I'm conscious of your time, and we've already taken quite a lot of it already, Peter. So I think that's been an amazing insight into a completely different world that's alien to a lot of us. But
Absolutely. No, I really enjoyed hearing the insights, and I think there's so many sort of nuggets of wisdom as well in there that I think a lot of people can take from and help sort of navigate their own path. So it's been fascinating to hear your story, Peter.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I really enjoyed it, Peter. Thank you very much. Yeah, we always end on the same question. So I'll ask you the same question if I can, Peter, and that would be: so you've been on a real journey from Florida to Cardiff to your world of TV. If you could go back to 17-year-old Peter before you went into the military on your journey, and you could give yourself one piece of advice based on the last 20, 25 years, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, I always tend to tell young people, maybe younger than 17 as well, like 14, 15, 16, 17, especially young people struggling a bit by either accepting who they are or figuring out what they want to do in life. Maybe they're having difficulty at school with other kids. Maybe they're not in the cool group. I always tend to tell them, just hang on, few more years. You don't have to spend time with these idiots ever again, and just focus on what you want to do, and things will get better. I always say that, and it really does get better. So I would say to myself, you know um have fun. And do what you want to do. I did, so I didn't have to convince my 17-year-old self that. But to other people, I would say, follow, as I said, follow your gut feeling, follow your heart. It's your life. It goes fast, and have a lot of fun along the way, because once it's over, once you get older, you kind of look back at the fun times and think, life is also a lot about having fun and enjoying yourself as much as you can along the way, I think.
Amazing.
It's a brilliant answer. Thank you. I concur with all of that. So that's a great answer, Peter. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I just, bare hyggelig, bare hyggelig. And apologies in advance for any mistakes I've done in English. I used to be a lot better. No, I used to be a lot better because, when I lived in Cardiff in the US, I thought I was like more perfect, but, you tend to forget, words and stuff, but I guess it's all right.
Well, listen, I'm a quarter Norwegian and I can't say a single word, so I wouldn't worry too much.
You don't need to apologise for anything, Peter. I'm just marvelling at your English skills all the way through that. So no, it was amazing, and I always admire people so well that they can have a full on conversation in their second language or third language.
Yeah.
So no, it was brilliant. So yeah. Amazing to catch up and hear your stories.
Likewise.
It's been a long time, and I really appreciate you taking the time for us today. And I know you're a busy guy, so really appreciate it. And thanks for that insight into Norwegian TV.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
and
my pleasure.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I wish you a wonderful summer. I know the Scandies enjoy their nice long summers and switch off completely and spend time with their loved ones and families. So I hope you have an amazing summer. And
you too.
And hopefully we'll see you at a UK reunion or over in Oslo at some point, and we'll catch up for a beer and reminisce about those good old days back in Florida.
Absolutely. And if you're catching up with your Halvorsen relatives, just let me know. If you're in Norway, I'll show you around.
That would be sensational. I will take you up on that, actually, because my kids haven't been there enough and I haven't been there enough. So. And I do know how hospitable the Norwegians are. I think, if we went to Larvik, I'm pretty sure my 37th cousins removed would probably give up their house. And, I mean, we've got a few stories. We've got one relative who's a mad keen elk hunter. And, I've never met him before. One of the times I have been over, he prepared this huge elk casserole and got half the village involved just because some guy was coming over. So I know how hospitable the Norwegians are.
Yeah, and it's a small world because we always, my family always go abroad. So we're going to Croatia this year, but also we always stay 2 weeks at this cabin in Sandefjord. Which was my mother's hometown, and it's just like an hour and a half from here. But that's on the border to Larvik, so I'm also in Larvik this summer. So.
Wow, amazing! So that will be on the fjords, will it?
What's that?
Will that be on the fjords, or my geography is not great?
Yes.
Yeah, it will be.
Right by the water. It's beautiful down there. So yeah.
Actually, when you said that, it rings a bell. So I have to check with my parents if I went there when I was younger. But I mean, just life on the fjords and. I guess in the Hutter, right? That's how you say it, in the summer houses. They are just magical. I mean, I
know. So it's
can't speak Norwegian.
There you go. I said one word.
Yeah, and that's not the most common word people know if they speak a little bit. So that's impressive.
There we go.
I have to say, Norway is one of the most beautiful countries I've been to, and I find leaving Heathrow and then landing at Oslo Airport, I instantly relax. Even walking through the airport, there's just an air of calm about it. And I remember going over for a wedding a few years ago, and our friends picked us up, and quite quickly we were in a boat, going off to an island for a barbecue on an island, just marveling at the scenery. And it's the clean air. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I remember again, sort of near Larvik. I remember going out on a boat fishing for some red sea mullet. I think it was the only thing that was really quite troubling was the amount of jellyfish. I don't know if that's like a common thing, but no,
it's not common in Oslo, but it's more common actually down at Larvik. Yeah,
okay.
But it's not a big problem. Yeah. I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take the shine off how incredible it is. I mean, I think if anybody could get out there, like I said,
and
I
the
only,
air is clean. Like here
Oh.
in Oslo, Elon Musk's Tesla cars. He never. He sells the most Tesla cars in Norway. Like in Oslo,
Oh,
most
wow.
people have an electric car. So it's, I guess, the air is clean here. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, we have to get out, and I'd love to meet you in person, Peter. And maybe if you're kind enough, we could do another podcast on site or on set or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know.
Amazing. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great
we'll
day.
talk soon.
Yeah, take care.
Say hi to everyone I know, or you back then.
I will. And I'll send the love as well. So take care, Peter. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All
Have
the
a
best.
nice day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Let's never ever go to sleep again. Wait, I think I'm starting to fade again. I don't want the end.